Given a lot of feedback and a lot of questions I've had from members, we decided to talk a little bit about ChatGPT. So my wife will tell you that I annoy her a lot about this. I spend probably 3 to 4 hours a day and have for many months messing around with this stuff. And so it's a lot of fun. There's a lot it can do. There's a lot of problems also. I just figured today I'll try to make it a little more interactive. We'll share a little bit about the context with you and then dive in and see if there's somebody that wants to be a guinea pig to share a little bit about their business. So in general, this is one tool, right? And as anybody who's paying attention, there's 80 new ones a day that come out. It's really difficult to stay up to date on what's out there and what it does and what it doesn't do. This is one tool. Part of the benefit I see in this tool in 2 roles in my life. So I teach here at John Carroll, so I use it a lot and will use it a lot in that role. I also have my own business, generates about $1 million a year, so it's a reasonable, decent-sized business. We use a lot of stuff in that business as well. So in both realms of what I do, we use a lot of this stuff. Part of the reason that I enjoy it and that I think it has a lot of power is it doesn't get tired. It doesn't talk back to you. It does, but it doesn't. It learns as it goes, right? And it just has a lot of power to give you information. Now, the downside of that is it will give you information. You have to figure out, is that good or bad information, or what do you do with it? But a lot of how you get the good information out of these things is you put good information in. And that's a skill, right? And so these are just some of the things that these tools can do. From a business standpoint, I don't know everything about every business there is, obviously, but the majority of a lot of the basic functions that any business is going to do, there are tools out there, and they're always evolving and updating that can handle a lot of that work, right? To varying degrees of complexity. But at least a lot of the simple stuff, these kind of things can take a lot of that off your plate. I'm just going to focus on this one tonight, that's ChatGPT, because it has a lot of power for a lot of tasks and some of the simpler things that want to do. And I will, after this, you get an email from me. It'll have about a 90-page document that has a lot of information in it and a lot of detailed, here's what you put in, here's what you get out, in a lot of different scenarios, because I don't want to bore you by going through that. So you'll get that. You'll also get a link to a spreadsheet that I put together that has about 600 or so prompts for ChatGPT for a wide variety of things, right? So you're going to get a ton of information afterwards that I think is valuable, right? And that I've used both roles in my life. But these are the powerful ones that we'll be talking about today. The whole trick to this, right? And ChatGPT is a big one. You might also have heard of Bing is the other one. That's Microsoft's version of this. The whole trick to this is what you put in, right? So prompting it is the language we use, right? So being able to put together and engineer good prompts gives you good output. If you put garbage in, you get garbage out. So the whole secret to this is understanding how to put information in. And there's lots of different ways to do it. This is just a general guideline of how you structure a prompt to ask it to give you information about something, right? Doesn't have to be this way, but for a lot of people, that's part of the confusing part of where do I start? Like, how do I ask this stuff information, right? The more specific you are, the more detail you can give these tools, the better information you get back, right? So for instance, if I take this, and let's say I have a candle business, and I want to get a new candle going, I can use this structure, right? And again, I'll send these slides to you so you can see it, but I can use this structure, and I can fill in all the information based on that structure, and what it's going to do, right, is write an SEO optimized description for a new candle called Turkish coffee. Essentially is what it's going to give me. But what it gives me is that description with all that other context included, right? Considering all that context. So again, the more you put in there, better you're going to get out. If you just went in and asked it to give me this description for a candle called Turkish coffee, it would give you garbage because it doesn't know anything else beyond that, right? So it's just going to start making stuff up. We call it hallucinating. It starts hallucinating and just making some stuff up, right? But because we're able to give it that kind of context, you're going to get something really good out of it, okay? So the better you get at this, the more efficient you are, and the better stuff you're going to get out of it, right? There are some definite warnings that a lot of people are trying to figure out, arguing over, regulating, et cetera, right? With a lot of these tools, who knows where the information's going, right? So personal information, data, anything you put into it, who knows where that is, right? And so it's just something to be aware of, certainly from a business standpoint, if you're trying to put in there data related to customers or patients in the medical field or whatever, you just got to be really careful about it. And beware the hallucinations, right? No matter what you put in, it's going to give you something back. So I deal with this a lot with students who think, oh, this is awesome, right? And then I go, maybe you should read it because it's actually garbage. And it doesn't make any sense, right? So you just have to be aware of what's coming out, okay? So one thing I asked, some folks did, but one thing I asked was what struggles you're having more in your professional role in your life? What kind of topics are you struggling with? Because then I'll focus on that tonight and have a little bit of fun with that. So a lot of the sort of building a team and employee retention and stuff that's down further, we're going to have another session like this, but very specific to recruitment and retention kind of things in July. I'll talk about that at the end. So what I wanted to focus on, and I was hoping this would be the thing, I didn't stack the deck here, but was marketing, because I think that's where it's more enjoyable for me. That's where I've been having a lot of fun, and I think that's where a lot of the power comes from. So I'm going to do what I tell people to never do, and I'm going to sit down and play around with this. So what I would like is, and please make this interactive. If you have questions or you have concerns or you need to call BS on me, please do that. So this is, again, I'll make an assumption that maybe you aren't familiar with this, so bear with me if you are. If you Google ChatGPT and you go in and you sign up for it, there's a free version, super easy to get, right? This is what it looks like. There's a free version and there's a paid version. The paid version is $20 a month. It's the difference between driving like a Ford Pinto and a Ferrari. $20 a month, unbelievably worth it, right? It does things a lot faster. It has access to the internet. It's just night and day difference. So my suggestion is if you're going to start playing around with this, get the paid version. It's very simple. What you do is you start typing, right? And you start putting the information in there that you want to get out. So let's see if we can have a volunteer. And, oh, you don't even know what you're volunteering for. No, go ahead. Yeah. Say again?
I was going to ask you a question between the free and the paid.
Yeah.
So you said, because I played around with the free version.
Yep.
Obviously, like everybody else here, most likely.
Yeah.
And this layout looks a lot different than what I've seen initially from ChatGPT.
Really? This is the only layout I've ever seen. Okay, it might be the case. I've always paid for it. John Carroll's always paid for it. But I use it a lot for John Carroll, so that's okay. Are you?
If you can choose a different browser and just go into ChatGPT, you can see that there's a huge difference. Like the basic one, pretty much like a conversational type of messenger type of chat.
Oh, no, that's right. And you're sure you're using ChatGPT, not GPT chat?
Yep.
Okay.
No, you're still on the paper. Yeah. Can you open a different browser? You're using Chrome. If you can open like a Safari or.
This one?
Yep.
I would say I've never seen anything other than this. Free.
Yeah, that's the one. I just want to get everybody out.
Sure.
Apples to apples.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. So, thank you, Gabrielle. The difference is I have this AI PRM that's an addition, right? Yeah, I'm sorry, I was not understanding it. So yours will look a little different, right? Because you'll have some things in here, but at the end of the day, it's just start entering text and it's going to give you output. There's this little different layout here because I have this other layer of sort of an add-on there. Does that make sense?
And what's AirPM?
So AirPM it's an add-on, right? Where there's all these things where you can just click a button do what it's asking you to do, and then it does all the work in the background, right? For instance, if I wanted a whole keyword strategy, instead of me having to come up with a whole big paragraph prompt, all that kind of a thing, I can just click this, and my keyword is email marketing, right? And then it's going to give me, it does all the work in the background. So there's these little, it's prompts that people build and input, right? So that's the difference you're seeing.
CRM, that's part of the paid version, right? Is that an
No, it's a separate thing that you can add on. And it also has a free and paid version, of course. So I don't use it a ton, honestly, because other people are building things. So I don't know who they are, how good it is, right? You can build one and just add it in the database. No offense, but I don't know how good you are at that kind of stuff, right? So anyway, so that's how we're looking at it. Regardless of how the rest of this looks, you're going to have a box where you start typing stuff in, right? So regardless of how it looks. If you have the paid version, it's GPT-4, and you have the ability to browse the internet. It makes a big difference, right? And so I always do that. The last I heard is the knowledge in ChatGPT stops like at the beginning of 2022, I think. So it isn't recent as of yesterday. There is a lag in what it does know, right? So if you're asking it something about an event that happened 2 months ago, it's not going to know that. It doesn't know that. So there's certain limits that you have to be aware of with this. Okay, so who wants to be a guinea pig? Who's got a struggle with marketing that you're willing to share details about in a safe space that we all agree nobody's going to steal any ideas or corporate sabotage? All the way in the back. Hold on, Dave. Anybody else? All right. What do you got, Dave? What do you got?
So I have a client that we're trying to figure out a full funnel strategy approach to the marketing efforts on Amazon.
What kind of business do you have?
So it's all advertising related. We do campaign management on Amazon.
Do you have a URL for your business?
Take a measure. TEIKA.
.com?
Yep.
Okay. And then what are you trying to do now? Sorry.
Full funnel advertising strategy on Amazon for extension cord.
So this is sometimes part of the hassle. There we go. We are working with a client who has, what did you say, extension?
Extension cords.
Sells extension cords on Amazon. We are trying to develop a full funnel, say it again how you said it,
Funnel
advertising strategy for this client. What kind of, any sort of tone of voice or?
Trying to get some acronyms to help it. That's cool, right? How can we utilize AMS and DSP, demand side platform, to cover all parts of the spectrum or all parts of the funnel?
And this is with, I wanted to just show you the difference, right? So this is with the free version that again is a little slower and doesn't have access to quite as much and quite as broad information. But you can see it just takes that information, and again, it's going to take anything I give it, right? If we had longer time to have a conversation, I would get more nuance from you, right? Exactly what kind of extension cords are they doing? What kind of competitors are there? And I could put all that information in, and I could say, here's URLs of their competitors. Please analyze, review their websites, because then part of what it can do is start to provide suggestions for differentiating from competitors, right? It can review your website, it can review their website, it can review all that stuff so that it gives you more accurate information based on that, right? But here it's saying, okay, here's the top of funnel awareness, here's the middle of the funnel consideration, bottom of the funnel conversion, right? And then it's going to give you some kind of wrap up. So it's nothing too complicated, but that's also because we didn't give it anything too crazy. But if I do the paid version, it's going to take a little bit longer because it's going to go browse and it's going to Oh, it doesn't like your website. So it may give you the same information because it couldn't put it in the context of your website. The way to think about this is, and there's a little bit of a psychological hack, the way to think about this is you're having a conversation. So you're having a conversation with this thing, trying to get information from it. You're giving it information, you're getting information. So when you approach it, if you think like you're having a conversation with a person, right? And so for instance, I do this partly because it's a little bit of fun, right? I just go, hey, when I start, how you doing today? And it tells me that it doesn't have feelings or personal experiences, right? Basically, what do you want? That must suck, right? Anyway, but you have a little fun with it because what happens is now you're going to be much better at asking it questions because you get yourself in this little space where you're actually talking to a person instead of talking to a machine. And it encourages different behavior, right? Okay, Dave, what do you got? What are you doing? Dave.
So if I was the, let's say I'm the director of the Amateur Association,
Okay.
I would like to put together a program for recruiting and retaining new members that are entrepreneurs and presidents of companies in Northeast Ohio.
Hold on. What are you trying to do? You'd like to...
I'd like to put together a recruiting strategy.
Okay.
For bringing 500 members into the Entrepreneur Association.
What kind of members are you looking for?
Entrepreneurs in Northeast Ohio.
What
Business owners.
What kind of entrepreneurs? Give me some more context. Particular industries, particular size of company, particular lifestyle, life cycle stages. It's okay if it's not, but just the more you can give me, the more.
Privately held companies.
With greater than $100,000 in assets.
Anything specific you want in a recruiting strategy? Like do you want email marketing? Do you want Facebook ads? Do you want?
Yeah, if you put together 5 points that might be interesting to these entrepreneurs.
5 points about what?
Motivating them to join. What's the reason they want to join?
Tag team up
That's okay. Anything specific you want though? Do you want, because again, part of what you get out is what you put in. So are you looking for specific types of content? Do you want?
here. They're business owners that would like the camaraderie of other entrepreneurs.
No, but what do you want? Do you want email marketing templates? Do you want Facebook ads? Do you want?
Get the names of the companies.
What format are you going to use to implement a recruiting strategy is what I'm asking. Are there certain,
Oh, an email strategy
okay.
and also telemarketing.
Would you want the CEOs and presidents,
Yeah, with the CEOs and presidents.
their names?
It may not,
Are you looking for certain industries or are you just, no?
it may have, oh, it doesn't like John Carroll websites. So it doesn't like that one. And so part of what you'll see in the thing you get is so one of the things I did for this specific group, the EA, is I had ChatGPT build out an entire media plan that involved all the email marketing, all the Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, landing page content, all that kind of stuff, right? So it took me a couple hours to tweak it and put all that in, and then it took me maybe another half hour or so to review it and add our spin to it and everything, and then I was done. Now it took me a while beforehand to get to that point to know what to ask it, but it was pretty straightforward. I didn't get anything crazy in terms of what I put in there, right? Here, it's showing you, here's benefits that you get, here's an email strategy, and so then what you can do is you can start diving deeper, right? So you've got, here's an email strategy, right? Create personalized emails that outline the benefits, so then I can say, this is great, thanks. Can you please provide 3 templates for personalized emails and outline benefits, as listed above, and invite the. So then what I can do is I can go deeper on whatever pieces or parts I want to get a little more information in. And one of the tricks that I like to use is I like to encourage it that it can do better, right? And it actually works. If you use this specific phrase, you get better stuff back, right? Because I think part of what happens is, at least in my world, like with students, when you ask them for an idea, the first idea is a terrible idea because it's the easy one that's off the top of your head, right? I think that's what's going on here. It gets the easy stuff. But when I say to it, awesome, you can be better, right? So I can say in here, be more creative and bold in asking prospects to join, right? So here's what it's done. It's given me these templates, right? And again, they're not bad. It's not terrible. It's done in a faster time than what you could do for the most part. You'd have to spend some time going in here and tweaking it. If the link works, if you can get it to review your website, right, that saves a lot of time because it will go look through your website and it will pull things off your site and add them in here. So it really does it all, right? So I can say, all right, these are good, but do a better job. And then it improves them, right? And again, you got to review them, but still, all this content, if I didn't have to have a back and forth with Dave to figure out the context, if Dave knew what he was putting in here, this would have taken 2 minutes to do, right? Yeah.
If you were to do this and you were really focusing in on your target market value proposition, you're starting to share something
Yeah.
about your business
Yep.
that might not be great to share with everybody else.
Yeah.
But I understand that this saves under some sort of topic, and that is that topic then available to anyone else who's asking similar questions, and it all surface back up to
Yeah,
other people?
I'm not a technical guy, and on some level I don't dig deep because I don't necessarily want to know, but my understanding is it's all aggregated. So once you put information out there, it's out there for this to use.
Usually it's another topic.
Yeah. And so for instance, if Gabby and I type in the exact same prompt and we hit enter at the exact same moment, we will get different information, slightly different information back because between the time, the milliseconds, it has more information that all of these gazillions of people are using. So it's just constantly updating. But the part of it and the reason you get these hallucinations is because Ryan may be putting junk in. It doesn't know that's good or bad. It just says, here's data, here's information, and it just uses it. Yeah, Leon.
What if you say you sound like you're a student, or sound like you're a baby boomer, or sound like,
Yeah.
that'll change how it does it too.
Absolutely, and that's part of when you tell it, act like this. So you're going to tell it, like in this case, I was trying to be a little quick just to show you how this is working, but in this case, you can come in and say, act like a specialist in building recruitment campaigns for business associations, and you have a specific specialty in cold call emails, and I want you to use this tone of voice, right? You can put all those details in, and then it'll give it to you. You want it to write in a sarcastic tone? I do it all the time. When my wife asks me something, I go, "Doo-doo-doo-doo," give me a sarcastic response, and then I duck. But yeah, so any of that information you can put in there. That's why the trick is thinking about what do you want to say, right? So that's like you had up here, what role do you want it to play? How do you want it to look at your request from some point of specialization? Because whatever it is you're asking it, you would be asking somebody who has that specialty. So if Bob was interested in some succession planning things, if he could narrow it down and say, I want this information, but I want it from somebody who's an expert in working with CEOs to develop succession plans. That all of a sudden gives it context so that when it goes out and looks for things, it knows limit it to these parameters. I don't know technically how it does it. But if I was to say, act like a college student, it's going to give me totally different information. Or if I don't say at all, act like this person, it's going to give me totally different information. And so then I have to spend my time going through and tweaking it. But if I give it that specificity up front, it's going to give me much better output that I have to then spend less time reviewing and trusting. I still need to review it. And so you just, go ahead. Did somebody have something? Oh. It just keeps diving deeper and deeper. Here's all these email templates that it just keeps spitting out.
When does it finally stop?
When, yeah. Sometimes it'll decide to stop. Other times it'll just keep going because some parameter I put in, I mistyped it or something, and so it just keeps going through a loop. But you can always tell it to stop down here.
Since this is the paid version, we have that add-on on top of it. Is what you put in here only for you, or is it still non-proprietary?
No, it's not proprietary. Nope.
There's nothing right now that's proprietary.
Nope, not at all.
I see that changing so that, like, I know there's one law firm, for instance, that's building one just for themselves with case law, and it would be then learning from their partners and their associates. But they're spending millions of dollars to do that.
Correct. I don't know as if that would ever really change. I don't. There's always going to be free stuff that isn't, and I'm sure people are going to start.
Is there a way that you wouldn't have to worry about having confidential information disclosed out there?
Yeah, I would imagine that. I would imagine even nowadays there are versions of things that protect that, but they're not going to be as powerful as this. And so the trade-off is, yeah, it's protected, but you don't have as much knowledge behind it to give you as good information. So there's a balance, right? So this is, and just another couple of examples, right? So for instance, if I wanted a marketing campaign strategy, it can give me a whole strategy, right? And this is where I'm telling it, act like the strategist with a deep understanding of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So I'm giving it the context to say, I want you to give me information based on your understanding of this theory or this field of knowledge or whatever, right? I want a campaign, here's the audience, right, that I'm trying to address, or I'm trying to help young women aged 18 to 27 struggling to manage day-to-day. Here's the product I've got. So again, I'm giving it as much context as I can. We're doing this checklist. What is more detail about the checklist? If you're nice to it, it'll be nice to you back, so kindly consider the following, right? And then again, more kind of information. This is nothing revolutionary what you're giving it, right? This is pretty common sense stuff that most of us would know. There's some tweaks in there that you might add in there, like the whole Maslow's hierarchy of needs or whatever. But then what it does is it goes, okay, here's the need we're talking about. Here's the messages, right? Finding stability amidst chaos. If I'm talking to young people who are dealing with anxiety and trying to manage anxiety, these are the kinds of messages that it's telling me are going to resonate with that group. Now, if I started to limit that group and say men aged 18 to 24 versus women aged 18 to 24, it's going to give me very different feedback because it knows enough of that context to parse that out, right? It's saying, here's the social media, right? 6-month campaign, Instagram, Facebook's wrong, but whatever. Twitter, right? Do email marketing, content marketing, partnership, and then I can dive in again and I can say, this is awesome, thanks. Please provide the first blog post I should post on my website. Right? And then if I just say to it, give me a blog post, it's going to continue the conversation, and it's going to, unless I tell it to stop and start a new conversation, it's going to continue from what we've been doing previously, right? So now it's going to take that and it's going to say, based on everything I just gave you, if I say to it, give me the first blog post I should post, again, I didn't give it any parameters. I didn't say make it this length, make it about this topic. I just said, give it to me. Again, just from the title, as a young person managing anxiety, dealing with anxiety, that's something that catches your eye, right? So it's thinking with that marketing brain and that Maslow's hierarchy of needs brain, and it's given me all kinds of stuff, right? And then I can go in here and say, this is great, but a 19-year-old doesn't really want to read all those words. Right, Caleb? Good answer. Most of the content in bullet point format. Also for please be really bold and creative and provide very actionable steps for the reader to implement tomorrow. So now this is where if you're trying to produce content, let's say, you can have it produce long content. So in this case, you produce a blog post, and then you can guide it to say, okay, give me this sliver, right? Or you can guide it to say, great, this is great for a blog post. Now take that blog post, write me a LinkedIn post, write a Twitter thread, write an Instagram caption, write a YouTube script, write a TikTok script. It does all of that, right? And it has all of that information. So again, you can dive as deep into this as you want, right? If we needed to dive much deeper into the funnel stuff that we were talking about earlier, it just goes on and on, right? And it really all is about you understanding what is it you're trying to get out of it, okay? So again, I have that long post. I tell it, I want 150 words. I want bullet points. I want quick. I want it to be bold. I want it to give me something that I could do tomorrow, right? That's what it's giving me. I can go in and I can say, does this make sense? Does this work for me? You can put in here and say, I need it to have certain keywords, right? All that kind of thing. If you need it to consider certain channels, if you need it to be addressed to a certain audience, all of those parameters you put in here and it gives you that stuff back, right? Other sort of marketing or anything really, we can open it up to anything. I just wanted to be able to give some examples based on things people are working on.
English is the language, I think.
Yeah, sorry.
Tone and writing style.
That's a part of that, the AI PRM. It can give me output in all these different languages. So it'll put it in whatever these are down here. It'll put it in Latina, I guess is the language. Oh, those are the countries, right? So it'll put it in all these different languages. These are the tones and writing styles. If you're asking it for written content, you can choose. It won't blow up. Sorry, it won't expand for me. You can choose, right? I want it pessimistic. I want it cold. I want it clinical. And then the writing style, same thing. I want it to be a little more creative. I want it to be more journalistic. I want it to be more satirical. It'll consider all of that, and it'll give that to you. If I'm in my role as an educator, I want it to be a certain tone and style that's going to appeal to a college student. If I'm in my role as a business owner, I need it to be a very different style for the customers that we have. And so you just play around with it and you find out which tone and voice matches yours. I've seen, I don't know what they are, but there are, and you can get add-ons to this, like the API PRM, that will do certain things. I've seen one where you can give it your website, or if you have blogs or social media accounts, and it will supposedly learn your voice. I'm not convinced of that, and some of the buddies I've had that played around with it, it wasn't quite right, so I don't use it. I still just tell it this down here. And then over here, it saves everything. So if I want to go back here, and I want to look at posts I made previously, or content I made previously, here I'm saying, this is one of the things you'll see in the packet I give you after this, right? So this was about supply chain management. I'm saying like, hey, I'm a small business, I'm struggling with supply chain issues. You're a consultant, right? For this one, I manufacture specialty flashlights, right? Give me 5 strategies that I can implement to combat the supply chain disruptions, all that kind of stuff. And so here it's saying diversify your suppliers, build a safety stock, adopt lean manufacturing, right? So there is supply chain. If I need marketing help, if I need HR, retention, recruitment strategies, all that stuff it does. The technical stuff, I don't think this does that great a job with. When it comes to very technical stuff, numbers, coding, there's some add-ons you can use here that do coding a little bit, but I still don't necessarily trust it. So it's really more of, think more words than numbers and data and all that. Let's see, what other questions we got, or what other things I could help with? Yeah.
If in January of next year, all publicly traded companies have to do ESG disclosures, I believe that that's going to trickle down to private industries as part of their vendor supplier relationships, and they're going to be asking us to fill out forms. So how can a small business, especially a professional services firm, prepare for that and begin to put together information to respond to that anticipated questions coming from publicly traded partners?
So give me the context of what kind of business you want that information for.
Professional services firm. executive search firm, specifically executive search firm.
And explain to me again what's going on.
As of January 1st, all publicly traded companies have to disclose ESG forms, basically, and they have to report it if they're an SEC traded company.
Okay. And you want to know,
What can a privately held company, basically, who will be asked by their clients or customers, how they would respond and start preparing data for those requests? Because it's going to trickle down.
and so again, this is going to be a little bit of a general thing, right? But the more information you give it about your company, about the specifics of what you do, about the specifics of
Will this be in the packet or?
no, but I can share it with you.
Okay.
Because here's what I do, right? So it saves everything. These are all like the previous things I do. And then I can go over here and this should be in the free version now as well. But I can go over here and I can just copy a link that'll give you the whole entire chat for that one thing. And I can share it. If you've got a team and they're all working on something, they can just share it back and forth, right? So I don't have to recreate, I don't have to copy and paste, I don't have to, it's all right there.
Let's talk about teams.
Yeah.
Is there a way, let's say, you guys are working on one project, and for each project, a different person works on different stages. Do you have to share your
I can't.
login, or can you just share?
You got to share your login.
One specific project for.
No, you got to share your login. It's not good for teams working on the same thing. I can share the information I have with each other, but Gabby has my login, right? Because we work together and I want her to have this, but that's the only way you can do it.
So it's not like
Currently.
Microsoft 365, you share a link
Correct.
and then somebody goes into your Excel and adds something.
Nope.
Details.
Nope, not yet. There was another Gabrielle, or no, I'm sorry. One, yeah, go ahead.
Super. One, how do you access the add-ons and plugins? Is that through ChatGPT or do you go to a separate site?
Yeah, so if you go in here into settings, you have to turn on this, there's a button to turn on plugins, so it'll show you what plugins there are. It's bananas what is there. And then, so then when you have, and again, I'll have a little short video that kind of goes through all this, just so, if you miss something here, you're not going to miss it. But then if you go here, you have, there's a plugin store, and these are any plugin anybody wants to build, right? And it goes through this approval process or whatever with ChatGPT, with OpenAI that runs it. It's got all kinds of 70 pages or more of stuff. I would say most of them are garbage, just because I could build one tomorrow and send it in, and who knows. But there's a lot of interesting things on there, right? There's some recipes, you want to do travel information, fun stuff like that. There's a code generator, which will help do some coding and be a little more accurate in the coding and that kind of thing. So it can be very overwhelming. All of this stuff can be really overwhelming because it's innovating so quick that it's really hard to keep up with it. That's part of why I just go, I'm just going to do most of my stuff in here because I can learn it really well. And then when I come to find out I need something else, like coding or whatever, then I go talk to people who know how to do that, and I say, what do I use? Because they know it. Hold on one second. Gabrielle, do you have a question?
When you're putting in the information and you're saying be as specific as possible, does the order matter?
I have not found that the order matters. No. I like to go, and again, this is part of, if you think of it like you're having a conversation with a person, you're going to talk to a person different than Mac's going to talk to a person. And I don't want to say it gets used to you, because I think that's a stretch and it's creepy. If you're talking to a person and you think you're talking to a person, you're going to be able to phrase the request much better if you have that state of mind, instead of worrying about Does it matter if I put this here, put this there? I don't think it does. That makes sense. Yeah.
So going back to the plugins, is there a way, or after you do this, does it ask you to review it? Is there like a third-party person reviewing it to see if it's garbage, if it's...
No, that's part of this really is the Wild West in a lot of ways. To me, it's fun and exciting. To a lot of people, it's scary. So let's just say I put this whole prompt in here, right? And again, I'm asking it for this kind of SEO optimized description for this candle. And I gave it all this information, the candle size. And so if you have new products, you're coming out with new products, let's say. You want to know, give me a description for your website. You want to know, give me a campaign to make a big splash with this product launch. And I want it for LinkedIn. I want it for this channel. I want a script for a 30-second video that has this tone, this feel. Here's an example, right? So you can give it a link to say, here's an example. I want a video like this. I'm always telling students, you should make a video like the Dollar Shave Club fun video. So that's something where I could say to it, I want a 30-second video like the Dollar Shave Club video. It's going to go out, look at that, and it's going to go, okay, so this, it's funny, it's humorous, it's all, and so it's going to take all that into consideration, right? And so now what I have is, it's a pretty good product description, right, based on what I have. So now I can take that and I could tweak it and I could say, okay, great.
So are the little ups and downs on the side, or those to rate it?
Yeah, so these are rating it, and what I will do, usually I don't do it till the end of the day, but this is helpful. Thank you, Mark, for asking that question. This is helpful because this helps the software learn. If you're telling it that's good or you're telling it that's bad, that's all part of its learning process.
That might be one of the ways that you could influence it to say, this
Yeah.
is good results or this is bad results.
This particular thing you can, yeah. Not the other plugins and things you add on top of it, but so at the end of the day, that's what I do. I go in at the end of the day, I see, this tells me everything I did today, and I go back and I give it. If I know, for instance, if I go in here, I can see, remember and go, okay, this one was pretty good, but I had to ask it to be better. So then I would say, this one wasn't so good, and then I can give it some feedback, and then I can say, this one was good. It helps it learn, right, to say this is good or this is bad. So it's what you're willing to contribute and put in. But I could take like this product description, for instance, and I could say, so I can get a script for it. Right? Again, I can put a lot more detail into it, I would, but it's going to give me the whole, create this scene, here's what this voiceover is going to say, here's what you do, it just, boom, there you go. So again, I don't know the first thing about video, cinema, that's just not my brain. I could go hire somebody, or I could have somebody on my team build a committee, take a long time, blah, 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 or I could do this at least and start, and have a good place to start where people can then respond. And to me, in the business I am a part of, what we found is to be one of the really big values here is it shifts our time from creating to responding to things. And the conversations that go on around how do we do this versus how do we improve this are night and day in terms of productive for us. And we get to be more creative, we get to be more innovative, we get to spend time on making more progress. It's taken time and we've had a learning curve. But now we're at that point where we can really speed up a lot of things because all we're doing is responding to things now, which is just, it's more enjoyable for me.
Do you think that ChatGPT is going to add in plugins for, rather than creating just a script, for creating the video out of that script?
I wouldn't think so. There's so many tools and so many funnels. There might be a partnership, right? So what's interesting is ChatGPT initially could not access the internet. It was all just text that it has been programmed to consume, right, that it's been given. But what they did with the upgraded version is it now uses Bing, which is ChatGPT's competitor, to browse the internet. So who knows? My guess would be with that kind of different capabilities, those things will stay separate. Would be my guess, but yeah.
I was wondering if you have any experience knowing the business service offerings. I noticed, like, just because there's been questions about confidentiality and if there's a
No. Sorry. Can't help you on that
I
one.
was just curious about how
Yeah.
it does have some different versions of how it was stored and how it has a different privacy by default settings, so it might be a good option for someone.
Yeah, I'll look into that more. I haven't looked into it. I probably just because I want to stay ignorant and just play, so I haven't spent the time. But no, it'd be good to look into. That'd be good information to know. Yeah. Other questions or use cases? Anybody want some information?
Are there any good follows as far as people go, like who are using it in innovative ways or testing out maybe the plugins to separate what's good and what's trash?
Yeah, there's a few folks I follow, and part of what I'll send you later includes some of this. There's a few folks I follow on LinkedIn that I've spent a lot of time connecting with and learning from and sharing with on LinkedIn. I don't spend a lot of time doing that. I did at the beginning just to say, hey, help me get started. These people seem to really know what they're talking about. But nowadays, I don't really engage with them too much. But part of what I'll share with you after this in that documentation will be a number of, here's the people who helped me learn. But it really is more, it's just a trial and error. That's really what I'd say. Instead of spending your time connecting to people with people to learn, I would say just get on here and try it. Just play around. And whatever whatever level of safeness and confidentiality, whatever you feel is comfortable, but just get in here and play around. If you're a salesperson, get in here and play around with sales scripts. If you're an operations person, get in here and play around with operational planning and whatever. And if you're a finance person, good luck. It's not that great with the numbers and all that, but the strategy and some of that kind of thing, it can definitely help with. I don't know if I should say, I'm just seeing who's in here. So we're working on approaching some local foundations and stuff for pretty heavy support for projects, and they asked for very specific things. We could have spent a long time going back and forth about it. I spent about 5 minutes saying, here's all the information on us out on the web, go find this information. Here's the organization we're trying to get money from, go find out all this information about them. Here's their strategic priorities, RFP, blah, 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 blah. So it does all the work literally within a minute. It goes and scrapes all that, figures it all out, and then I say, I need this, right? Cut and paste from what they're telling me they need. I need this based on all this information, boom, and it spit out one hell of a letter, right? That I shared with some of my colleagues who do the same thing, and they're like, man, you are brilliant. I know I'm not. I'm brilliant enough to know how to use this, right? And as long as you know what you're doing, and as long as you can give it that information, that's where the homework comes in, is to be able to get to that point. And again, like, we're all intelligent people. In your role, what it is you need it to do, the context, it's just plugging it in directly. Yeah, Kathy.
So I heard secondhand that training AI on large models is very expensive. And right now, everything's in public, and it's probably pretty similar to people who are looking for sales scripts or sales scripts.
Right.
But as this gets privatized, just like cloud got private, private cloud and all this other stuff, you can imagine companies or enterprises wanting to control their own domain.
Sure.
And are you at all cognizant of how much this costs?
No.
To actually maintain and operate. You mentioned earlier that this only goes up to 2022, and that's understandable because I've been involved in side AI experiments, machine learning experiments, and they're very resource intensive.
Sure.
So I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen. Like, blockchain got very resource intensive, and then there were strategies to reduce that. You kind of see how technology goes.
Sure.
And I just wondered if anybody knows anything about this dimension of resource utilization.
I don't, personally. I don't know. I can. There you go. That's what you do. I tell my 17-year-old son that all the time. Stop bothering your mother and I. Go find out. come back to us before you make a decision to do something based on what it's given you. But seriously, that's it. It's we don't want to rely on it entirely, and this is an issue we face in education and that we're going to continue to face. We don't want to rely on it entirely, but we certainly can benefit if we use it as a tool to at least get started. To your question, I have no clue. I don't know half of what you even just said because it's not my world and I don't know. But if you and I were talking, I could say, I don't know, let's check it out. And you and I could go back and forth and yeah, and literally you can have a conversation as long as you want. It doesn't get tired. It'll always be there. It's pretty cool.
Have you experimented with any of the voice activated
No,
voices on ChatGPT?
I haven't, no. There's a lot of text, voice to text things where and I assume it's going to get a whole lot easier over time where I can just talk when it does it all just with my voice while I'm walking the dog. But I haven't messed around with it yet. I'm old fashioned with my computer.
There's a story on ABC this morning, and it took the voice of one of the reporters from a story that he did, and they turned it into a ransom message that was sent to his wife.
Mm.
The security firm did it. And
Yeah.
it sounded exactly.
Yeah, there's always going to be bad actors and there's always going to be people who figure out how to do this stuff. That's a part of life and it's part of technology, which is unfortunate. But
Part of it was the security to deal with that. One of the big ransomware hacks where corporations would hack penalized where the CEO was on vacation and had a bot in their system. That when they were going on vacation, then they got a message from the CEO, hey, I just found the property, do you want to give money on Friday? 48 hours, guy comes back to the office on Monday. The voice is a whole new different thing. It sounds more and more like a business owner's standpoint. That would be interesting to understand. What are some of the security things businesses can do to make sure that they don't get hacked and some of these things?
yeah, there's all kinds of nuances and elements here, right? Which is pretty cool. I just want to show you this too, right? Part of what I do in my role as the executive director of the EA is content and ideas for workshops and all this kind of thing, right? So again, I go, hey, we host these events every so often, right? If the purpose is to tell these small business owners and entrepreneurs in Cleveland about disruptions coming in the future, right? Learn everything you can about the disruptions. Again, right, I'm telling it, take your time, let me know when you learn everything you can, and then I'll give you my next instructions. So it's going through here and it's saying, hey, I started researching about disruptions to small businesses in Northeast Ohio. Here are the kinds of things I'm coming up with, right? Inflation, staffing challenges, startups, finance. This is not necessarily rocket science because it's kind of like the same for any business really, but it's still gathering information, right? Best. I thought that was cool. So, I can, all right, I want to develop this 1 hour workshop. I keep going. It's saying, so this is a preview of what we're doing in July. I didn't develop what we're going to do in July. It did, right? Now I'm going to tweak it and make it my own, but it's created the workshop and the things that we're going to do in July regarding recruitment and retention. And that all just happened because instead of me, who I'm not technically a small business owner in Northeast Ohio, in Cleveland, I don't know enough maybe to know exactly what kind of issues we might be facing here. And I could go and I could have lots of conversations, which I do, but I could also say, let's see what this thing does. And based on conversations I have with people, I know recruiting and retention is an issue that keeps coming up. And from my standpoint as a professor who deals with young people, can I do something that starts to close that gap? That's what this thing has developed for me. So the same kind of thing. You have to do a keynote, you have to run a workshop, you have to deliver some kind of communication formally to vendors or whatever. Give it that information and it will do it for you, right? If you know who you are and you can give it information on you, you know your audience and you can give it information on them, and ideally you give it the web link, the URL, the website. It'll go crawl it and grab information off of there. And then it gives you much better output so that you don't have to spend your time creating it, you then get to respond to it and make it even better. And I know I want to be respectful of people's time. It's 7:30, but I'm happy to stick around and talk to people. But like I said, you'll get an email after this. We'll ask you a couple questions. We'll actually use an AI bot to ask for feedback on the session, which is cool. Jamie got access to it from some folks out at Stanford. And then, like I said, I'll share those documents with you. You'll have a ton of information that's overwhelming. I'm a resource. The EA is a resource if you're interested in learning more about this, particularly the feedback form. If you give us feedback on format, on topics, then we can create sessions and learning experiences and resources that are useful for people when they need it. So, yes, Joan.
Would you say most students are using this?
Caleb?
Absolutely.
That's a hell yes.
Almost every student that's like halfway smart has at least tried to use it, if not to, at minimum to at least get content ideas and
Think
concepts.
it organized thoughts.
Exactly.
I have a 17-year-old and all of them are using it, and I have a friend who has a 13-year-old and all their friends are using it. So that's the other reason we are going to very much embed this kind of stuff in our curriculum here. One, because it makes my job better, because I don't have to spend my time doing this. I get to now spend my time building relationships and engaging with my students and human connection. But two, it's a valuable skill. So for the students who are using it, who know what they're doing, it just amps them up. For the students who are using it and don't know what they're doing, it's an opportunity to help train them a little bit. And for the students who don't know anything about it, here's an introduction to it, but it does it in a structured way. But yeah, anybody and everybody you can think of, yeah, everybody's using it. So I appreciate everybody coming. Grab some food on your way out, hang out. We'll be here. Oh, and I'm supposed to show you, this is the next thing we're doing. We had to move it from July 6th, so it's going to be July 10th. Again, it's all about sort of recruitment and retention. So, if you're interested in that, or you have people working for you who might be interested in that particular slice of business, it'll be same sort of thing, a little bit more of a deep dive into these issues with some other tools and stuff. But I think we're hearing it's necessary, so this is going to be our perspective on how do you use some of these tools to improve those functions in your business. Yes?
I see this one's gonna be from 8 till 9:30, and you're gonna do it for after hours, after work hours sessions?
Yes, so we mix it up a little bit. Some morning, some evening, some lunchtime, just so different people can come. We'll always record them. If you ever want to sit down and watch a long video of a guy talking, we'll do that. But yeah, we're going to have, again, it's also part of what I'll share with you tonight. We have one later in July that'll be in the evening, and then early August will be in the afternoon, and later August will be in the evening, I believe. And we don't even know the topics of those yet. That's why your feedback is really useful, because I'll develop those topics based on interactions with members and prospects and all that. So if you have interest in certain topics, let me know. You all got emails from me. Don't feel bad harassing me, because that's how we do this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.